Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cape May. We are here in the Cape May City Hall Auditorium. It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. The time is 3 o'clock. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Under the Open Public Meetings Law, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cape May County Herald and the Press of Atlantic City, and a copy of the agenda was delivered to each member of City Council and posted on the Cape May City website and Cape May City Hall Bulletin Board. Notice is hereby provided that Cape May City Council meetings are audio recorded and video streamed live. Live video streams are posted to the Cape May City website. The City of Cape May is not responsible if audio recording or live video streaming of a meeting is unavailable. Roll call. Deputy Mayor Baldwin. Here. Councilmember McDade. Here. Councilmember Meyer.
Here.
Mayor Mullick.
Here.
Councilmember Yeager.
Here.
City Solicitor Gillen Schwartz.
Here.
City Manager Vall.
Here.
We also have our City CFO, Kevin Haney. Any additions or deletions this evening, Council?
Do we have any? No?
I believe our manager may have a slight addition. Is that correct, Manager Vall?
Yes. Mayor, please join me. I'd like to, tonight, as you know, we recognize our employees. We have a lot of dedicated employees that do a wonderful job keeping the city safe, clean. And tonight, we're honored to present Eric Brzezinski. Eric, if you want to come up, with a certificate as the Public Works Superintendent. Eric, he has the qualities that we look for. He's married to Amber. He's got twin boys. He's a great husband, a good dad. His family is very important to him. And he also is a great golfer now and then. But he's proven himself as an excellent director, an excellent leader in our community at Public Works. The employees respect him, and they perform well for him. And it's proven by what we have in this beautiful city. I have mentioned in the past that we have very dedicated Public Works employees. Anything that we ask, they do well, and it always gets done. We meet every morning before coming to my office, and we brainstorm different ideas how we could do it better, and he's always there cooperating to make sure that we get it done. He's always looking to save the city money by us doing it in-house like we've done all your conference stations from Ocean and right along Beach Drive. So, Mayor, please join me in presenting to Eric. Aaron, you want to do a picture? There you go.
Congrats, Eric. Thank you. Awesome.
Get in the front.
Yeah.
All right, I'll show you. Thank you. Now get back to work.
Council, if there are no other additions or deletions, we do have a presentation by Ms. Kamini Patel from the JIF.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you, or good afternoon, 3 o'clock. Welcome to the city, and thank you for joining us. I just want to say Eric just has done such a nice job, and to get his degree from Rutgers is really impressive. So congratulations, Eric. Thank you.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing some time on your agenda today. I promise I won't take up too much time, but I just want to talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges as well as some of the programs and resources that are available to you as a member of the Atlantic JIF. If you would turn to page 4 of your presentation, and I apologize for the flipping and the flopping, but there was an error at the printers and the pages got a little switched around. So if you turn to page 4 of the packet, you'll see that some of the factors that we're facing right now are a hardening of our reinsurance market. We're also impacted by inflationary factors for medical costs and wage replacement. And we're also seeing the impacts of recent regulatory and statutory changes, such as the COVID-19 compensability law, which is costing mail-affiliated JIFs in excess of $25 million of unanticipated claim costs. Another change that's impacting us is the pension offset. We've identified over $10 million, in excess of $10 million, where we were not budgeted for due to a directive from the local pension board. If you will flip backwards to page 2, you will see some of the crises that we're facing in the worldwide insurance market. I'm sure many of you have experienced the increase in your personal homeowners insurance as well as your auto recently. And part of that is because the insurance market is limiting its capacity. We're also seeing less coverage for more pricing. One of the main factors is property. And if you turn to the next page, I want to talk about some of the things that are impacting the property market, such as global warming. We have increased amount of natural disasters. We've seen a lot of hurricanes, wildfires, flooding that are happening throughout the country and throughout the world. We've had 18 separate $1 billion property losses in 2022 alone. That's one every 3 weeks. That's significant. It's taking a toll, and it's hitting the insurance market as a whole, including the GIFs. If you would turn to page 5, and again, I apologize for the flipping and flopping. This is a breakdown of our budget. As you can see, there's 29% of the budget that we have no control over. We have control over the 71%, though. So if you flip to the next page, it's a breakdown of our operating expenses. And you'll see that 57% of our budget is allocated to loss funding. This is the money we put aside to pay for claims, whether it's property, work, comp, liability. And then you'll see that the second biggest portion of the pie is reinsurance. And this is where the worldwide insurance crisis is impacting us as well. And another thing to note on the slide is that your GIF is operating very efficiently. Many GIFs across the state have an operating ratio of in excess of 20%. So we're doing the best we can to control the cost. If we flip to the next page, I want to talk about a little bit about the programs that are offered exclusively to Mel-affiliated GIFs. They include cyber risk management, safety and risk management training and resources. We have a claim management program that we utilize, to name a few, but I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on each one. If you flip to the next page, we have a cyber risk management fund that was created by the Mel-affiliated GIFs in recognition of the cyber being a very unique peril to cover. So the cyber GIF offers you coverage, risk management guidelines, as well as cybersecurity standards. It's important to come into compliance with these standards by the end of the year because they impact your deductible as well. So we hired a technology risk service director, which will help you come into compliance with the cybersecurity standards. And his information is on the slide. So feel free to reach out to him. If you flip to the next page.
Is there a time frame for the compliance?
Yes, December 31st
When? December 31st of this year?
of this year. We have risk management programs that we offer to help protect your municipality. We have tenant users liability insurance program. This is unique to the Mel-affiliated GIFs. This allows your residents to purchase an inexpensive insurance policy when they want to use your parks or other facilities throughout the municipality, and it automatically names the city as an additional insured, so it protects your rights. We also offer you guidance and certificate of insurance and model indemnification language. So when you contract with third-party vendors, you have a list of insurance requirements that you can ask them, and you have wording that you can utilize in your agreements and contracts that help protect the city as a whole. And all this is given to you as no additional cost. If you turn to the next page, we emphasize safety. We're big on safety. We offer risk management training for elected officials, as well as your volunteers for your planning and zoning boards. And we also have, like I said, safety is big for us. So we offer regional safety training. We have a safety director that comes out and does on-site loss control visits to help you identify areas that could need improvement so we can prevent future claims. They also send out bulletins as well on a regular basis to help for best practices for e-bikes, and there's going to be a new one coming out for fire hydrant safety. And all these bulletins are released and created based on the needs of the membership. If you turn to the next page, you'll see why we So we're very heavy on safety. You'll see that this chart shows as the training increases, our lost time accident frequency reduces. This is lost time accident frequency is for employees that are injured and out of work for more than 7 days. So you'll see for every 100 employees, we have 1.6 employee that's out of work for more than 7 days. So if you turn to the next page, talk a little bit about employment practices liability. We offer court-mandated training for your managers, supervisors, police command staff, and rank-and-file employees. We've released the MEL released updated policies and procedures on May 17th. It's important to come into compliance with them. You have until November 1st to do so. They will help lower your deductibles and co-insurance as well. And we also have an EPL helpline. We ask that any member that has an employee situation that they need advice on to have their authorized personnel contact the helpline and get guidance from an attorney before taking any action. We have 3 attorneys that man this helpline. And one of them is David DeWeese, who is also the fund solicitor for the GIF. So he knows all our members well. If you turn to the next page, another thing that we're doing is we're managing our claims. So if we have employees that are injured and that are released by the doctor to come back to work in a limited capacity, we're encouraging our members to utilize our transitional duty policy. As you can see, it's over in 2022, we used 76% of our allotted days, and we saved the GIF $600,000. So it's really important to utilize and accommodate your employees in transitional duty when possible. We also utilize the best network available for medical care, and we have a specialized GIF defense panel that specializes in Title 59 immunities. We also, if you flip to the next page, we believe healthy employees get injured less frequently, and we have data to support that, which I'll go over the next page. We have the GIF contracted with the wellness director to help your municipality encourage your employees to participate in wellness. She can come down and help you with your local wellness initiatives as well. If you turn to the next page, you'll see a bunch of charts. And these charts represent data from the past 3 years for 3 GIFs that our office represents. And this wellness program is unique to Atlantic, Burco, and Trico GIFs. And you'll see that employees that have comorbidities cost the GIFs 96% higher than those that don't. And when you break down the cost of that claim for medical costs and wage replacement, it's 109% higher. And the time that they're out of work is 94% higher. So when you have a healthy employee, they return to work quick too. So it's important to encourage your employees to participate in the wellness program. In recognition of increased costs in auto repair and vehicle replacement, the GIF adopted a formal auto repair program in March 2021. This helps establish standards for vehicle repair and helps ensure that vehicles are being repaired to the manufacturer's recommendation. You may be wondering, what does all this mean? Well, it means that your GIF has a very strong bottom line because of the programs that we institute. As you can see, your GIF is 35 years old and has excess of $13 million in surplus, has in excess of $43 million of cash on hand. We've released over $51 million of dividends back to our members, and Cape May has received over $827,000 back since joining in 1999. Finally, I want to stress the importance of member engagement in our GIF. Our GIF is one of the few GIFs that drive on member engagement. We value your input and we take it into consideration. I'm sure many of you that attended the elected officials training, you received a survey for your feedback. We are going to take that feedback and use it, and take into consideration when planning the next round of training. So we do this with every event that we host. We get your members' feedback, we get the employees' feedback, and then we utilize it to make the program better and to meet the needs of our members. Every program that I've reviewed today is a reflection of the needs and exposure of our membership as well. What you can do to help control some of the costs is, like I said, support your employees in engaging in the wellness program, utilize transitional duty, encourage your employees to participate in online and in-person safety training, cybersecurity awareness. And I know you have a police department. We also have a law enforcement consultant that comes out and meets with your police chief. If you will flip to the back of your presentation, I have a little report card for you. This report card outlines the financial stability of the fund, as well as how you rank as a member against your JIF peers. So there's a breakdown of information for you to take a look at. Also offers, some information on what balances are available to you throughout the different programs that we have. If you have any questions, okay.
So my background is healthcare, so I ran risk management for large healthcare operations, so I'm very familiar with sort of the structure. You mentioned early on page 4, that pension offset of $10 million.
Yes.
Can you just describe a little bit what that was associated with?
So this was a directive that came down from the local pension board. And before the JIF, when an employee was injured and was collecting accidental disability pension, the JIF was just paying for medical monitoring. After the directive, we're now have to settle out our claim petition, and then the pension board takes a credit in the same amount before the employee is being paid.
Understood. You talked about cybersecurity.
Yes.
And there's a compliance rule around 1231?
Yes.
Okay. Has the information associated with those standards are been provided?
Yes.
To the city? Okay,
Yes.
so internally, we know what those are?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you need a copy, I'll be happy to send them to Ms. Burke, or they're also on our JIF website.
Okay. The reinsurance market was interesting. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal today about how even homeowner property insurance is becoming more and more challenging because of the reinsurance market and the things that you touched on, climate, and the cost associated with replacement for property was very timely that you talked about this. The other thing that you talked about was around the health, the wellness.
Yes.
And is that something, again, another program that we are familiar with?
Yes.
Do you do health care screenings?
Health fairs, yes.
Health fairs.
So the Jordan Simone, who's the JIF Health Wellness Director, she can certainly come out and help assist with that as well.
Okay, all right. Do we get credit back through our medical coverage when someone does agree to participate in those programs? I'm used to credits being given back to the employee
No.
that they get reduced. No?
No,
Okay.
no, this is a JIF-based program, so it doesn't impact the employee's health
Okay.
benefits.
Right.
But you do get a percentage you get, I believe, let's see, you get $1,000 back.
Okay.
To help with the initiatives. So you can purchase items that are approved, the approved list is on our website as well, of items that you can help to purchase to help engage your employees. Maybe have a wellness challenge, and the award is one of the approved items.
You talked about on-site assessments being available associated with
Yes.
safety. Again, something we probably, I'm not sure if we've taken advantage of that, but
Yes,
that is.
well, the safety director is required to do visits to every town.
Okay.
Every year, so they do come out and meet.
And a report is provided to
Yes.
the city manager?
Yes.
Okay. And sorry, and the final, I think the other final is the training programs.
Yes.
I think you mentioned that they're mandatory?
Yes, the court mandated ones are, like the
Okay.
managers, supervisors,
Right.
police command staff, and
Yeah.
rank and file.
So I'm used to a world in which it was mandatory for every employee. You were given your course, you had to complete them every year. It went from everything from workplace safety, bloodborne pathogens, just according to your job description and your
Right.
function. It became, it was challenging to manage from an operations standpoint, but I do have to say, it became so routine that people understood exactly what it was they were responsible for, and it became more hardwired into the organization once it was a sort of a mandatory. I'm not suggesting that, but there's a certain value to those courses that brings people to a top mind awareness than otherwise, and it can be something as learning about lifting, and just being aware of, use of a computer, password protection, and just things of that nature. So, I'm a proponent of that, and certainly take the courses when they're provided to us from
Yes.
the clerk's office. So, okay. That's all that I had, sorry.
Any other questions? Okay, if there are no questions, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you will look favorably upon the resolution to renew your membership in the JIF. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you.
If I may, Mayor, Deb Lindholm is our JIF administrator here at City Hall, so We appreciate what you do, keeping us all informed, Debbie.
Thank
Thanks, Ms. Patel.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Council, for moving forward, we do have Resolution 16506, 2023 next on the agenda, resolution authorizing the execution of a contract renewing membership in the ACM-GIF, if you'd like to take action on that now.
Okay, do I have a motion on the resolution to renew the GIF membership?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments, council? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Okay. And next we have updates from the manager and solicitor.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be brief. A couple of public safety things. Lifeguards, we're hiring lifeguards. We're up to par. We're covering all the beaches. Just an interesting note that 46% of our full-time summer guards are female now, which makes me think then we're going to start to discuss maybe possibly a second floor or some other design for the beach the beach patrol office, because we need more room for the female guards. The police this summer, we have Class 1 officers, we have 6. Class 2 officers, we have 7. They'll be graduating the 29th of June, the Class 2s. They're doing the golf cart enforcement as council's requested. They're pulling them over. They're checking, making sure they're safe. The brochures that went out are being well received. I want to congratulate Lieutenant Lang. Friday night we had a fire in the middle of the night on Lafayette. And because of his experience and knowledge about the condition, with his leadership, they were able to save that building and extinguish it. And I think you'll hear more about it from the chief. This guy should receive a commendation, and he'll explain the whole thing at that time. Our county roads up to par. Beach Drive, we'll go back to that in the summer. Lafayette, we just finished the striping and asphalting, and we'll be back on Lafayette and the jump out in front of the school in the fall. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the 3 Ps, they're all completed, and they all look great. Nice job, everyone that's involved. Striping asphalt, I just said, on Lafayette and Jackson, that's done. Firehouse, about 6 weeks from now, hopefully we'll be celebrating the opening of that. The library should be completed before Christmas. They promised me it'll be done by December, and that's really coming along. Parks, we're talking about in the future to redo Harborview Park. Currently, we're on Kiwanis Park, and that's right now summer camp is there going on, and that's going to be jumping back up in the summer. Lafayette Street, we're still waiting to get the land swap done, and that's the highlights, Mayor.
Thank you very much. City Solicitor?
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
No? Okay. On to our engineers report. Mr. Orlando.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You turn on the mic there, Vince. Thank you, sir.
So we have a few projects working. First project I want to talk about is the Lafayette Nature Trail. It really posed some design objectives. So one of the things that we did, we worked with one of your local towns, I guess it's Mr. Fay, who conducted we hired him, and he conducted an aerial shoot of the area, which is behind everybody.
Oh, cool.
So,
Ronnie at the Department of Public
Ronnie.
Works. Yeah.
So I think you'll find it interesting, because this is one of the things that we did to look at this and design it. So this is taken from the school parking lot, and
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah. Wanted to know if they were dubbed in.
I think they're implemented. So initially, if the board recalls, we were just going to go into the transition area wetlands. But after taking this video and looking at some of the views, we decided to go into the coastal wetlands around the entire pond. And you'll see that in the plan that we prepared. So the nature trail will really have a couple of highlights. It will come out of a transition forested area and then into a coastal environment. So I think there's, a lot of wildlife, a lot of birds. The views will be spectacular, as you can see. The video is very helpful in really identifying how the trail should be laid out and the venues and the location of the platforms that we proposed on the project.
Very cool.
Do you have the map too? Plan that we could share? Yeah, if you could blow that up just a little, Aaron. So that's the plan that we've are ready to make the submission to the DEP. We have two entrances, one off the street end and one off the school. The school entrance will be a secured entrance that'll be locked so that anybody that is going from the street access will not be able to get into the school. That'll be totally fenced. The purple area that you see, the purple area, is an at-grade design. So that particular would be a hard surface that would be at grade. The blue areas are the areas in the freshwater transition. There'll be a boardwalk area that'll be elevated. And then the light beige that is to the top of the page will be a boardwalk in the coastal wetlands. And you can see the positioning of the 4 platforms that we have in that location. I think at the end of the day, the trail will be well received. The path itself is 6 foot wide. So
Distance all the way around.
no, it's probably close to maybe a half mile to 3/4 of a mile, somewhere in that neighborhood. You would think I would have that number available.
Sorry.
But the positioning of those areas, they're large platform areas, and if you scroll down a little bit, please, keep scrolling. There's a little detail, maybe off to the left, of maybe up a little bit. I had a detail. So you see the platform areas, the viewing platforms. I'm going to incorporate a viewfinder in each of them, along with 2 benches. So enough for handicap accessibility. The 2 benches will be there. And that's pretty much it. This application is complete. It's ready for DEP submission.
I like
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty amazing to see really how much nature there is right off of Lafayette Street right there, to be able to be that secluded. And I think it would just be such a beautiful walk back there.
It really be spectacular. I think it'll be introduce an element that most of the Cape May citizens are not aware of.
Right.
Certainly the downtown area.
Right. Yeah.
Ask a question about this?
Please.
Is there a time frame for this? I imagine that some members of the audience would like to have some kind of idea.
So I would anticipate our permits to be obtained by the end of the year, and construction to begin hopefully the spring of '24.
Thank you.
What's the support for the walkway that's going around the wood walkway? What are those pilings?
Filings.
standard wood pilings?
Standard wood piles, they'll have to be, they can't be creased, so obviously they have to be coated or non-polluting, which will be a requirement of the DEP. And all the wood will have to be inert. They can't have, the days of pressure-treated lumber is long by.
No reason to think that the DEP would have any problems with anything here.
I don't think so. You know, initially, we were trying to scale it to one permit. So we're asking the DEP for 2 permits, one to build in a wetlands transition area, and the second to build within a coastal wetland. Initially, we wanted to just keep the permit within the wetland transition wetlands area because we thought that'd be a little simpler. But after we had the video, it didn't get far enough into the coastal environment that we liked. We felt that we'd be doing a disjustice not to go all the way around to bring that coastal environment in. So that's why, that was the whole reasoning for the video. Because as we started to look at it and look at the aerials, the person that was working on it said, I'm not sure you're going to get the views that you want. And I ordered what is the aerial thing?
Drone?
The drone. Never came in. It was stolen. So I was about to order another one. The mayor suggested that Mr. Fay does that on the side. He's very reasonable, charge us $150 to go out there and to prepare that video. It was well worth it. In fact, since that point in time, I've given him 2 other jobs. So I do appreciate his timely manner. He actually came out in 2 days to meet with me.
Perfect.
So it worked out well.
That's great.
As your administrator indicated, the Kiwanis Park, Phase 1 is completed. Phase 1 consisted of the blacktopping, the concrete, the fencing, the removal of the trees, and the policing of the area. Very happy the contractor finished that in a timely manner. His deadline was June 1st. It was well before that date. So now it's the wait till Labor Day. I've indicated to them that they'll be able to start immediately after Labor Day to do the remainder of the park, which includes the playgrounds, the lighting, and the landscaping. In fact, today we did get a request for, so if you recall, all the landscape plantings are going, not all, but a majority of the landscape plantings are going to have placards with the common name and a Braille name. So it'll be identifiable for the visually impaired. We just produced that detail today. Unique about this, and again, you learn something every day, there are 2 sets of Braille that the public becomes adhered to. It's the routine of all the letters, but then there's a shortened version that people that are, I guess, more used to Braille that would use. We opted to go to the long version because obviously we feel that there are going to be kids there and they not
great.
be used to it. But found that interesting that
That's cool.
there are 2 Braille methods.
Can I ask a quick question about?
Also, phase
two?
3, okay, it's phase 2.
Phase 2.
Yeah.
I know that everything as far as colors and equipment were all selected.
Yes.
Have you heard anything back from the contractor? Are there supply chain issues?
There is not. So they ordered everything. They anticipate everything to be here by the end of August.
Okay.
So I think that our plan to move in September should work out well.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
Phase 1 just, it looks great. And I come down my street and see it, and I've seen, I would say, 100% increase to the amount of people using the park.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
A lot of great, positive
Yeah.
feedback on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. And phase 3, obviously, is the restrooms. Mr. Becker is currently designing those. We're working with his office. And our hope is that once we get the design, the cost estimate we'll bring to the council, and if it's within budgetary constraints, we'll then order the work, and that work will be done over the late fall, winter project for inclusion into the '24 season.
That's great.
So
And I know the utilities were part of Phase 1 too, I think, right?
they were, I'm sorry, the water and sewer have been ran,
That's
both for the bathroom and the irrigation. Now, if you recall, the irrigation for Phase 2 is just some of the highly landscaped areas. We're not irrigating the grass areas.
Right.
But we felt that since we're spending a lot of money on the areas for the plantings, which are part of the sensory discussion that we had, we wanted to irrigate those areas.
Okay.
Welcome Center for Phase 1 is complete. I sent in my last email, Phase 2. Phase 2 consists of landscaping, signage, and some additional concrete work. That's ready to go to bid when council believes it should necessary. Again, I think that would be a project that would be built in late fall. You know, the Cape May is busy 12 months out of the year, but I think we should hold that
Especially parking lots.
that till maybe October.
Yeah.
It looks good for a parking lot for now, too.
It does.
But
I think there could be some improvements.
Right.
We had a new sign. I think that,
yeah, that'll be
I think
really,
that's kind of the topping on the, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very happy the way it came out. It's very functional.
Right.
It works well. I think the landscaping and the additional signage would just kind of finish it off. And we
You-
did put those trees in.
Right, Atlantic City Electric brought some trees.
they look
some
good.
season.
They look good.
They were gonna throw a whole bunch more in there, but
We had to
Luckily,
reel them back a little bit, but it worked out well.
Looks nice.
and,
Councilman Mayor.
what about the fence? Do we have any update on that?
I can update you because I just asked Eric, who ran out of here.
Okay.
They're still shooting to be finished before July 1, but apparently they were waiting on some materials for the aluminum fencing, so, but they're still shooting for before July 1.
So we designed a fence. Eric did send it out for quotes. They got the quotes, and we took that out of Phase 2 and put that into 1A, just for safety issues. As Mr. Vole indicated, the firehouse is nearing completion. Our office was out there on Friday, shooting some grades to finish off the walkways along the way. Surprised I had my hard hat, my vest on. I was shooting elevations. Nobody out there taking
Sorry, I
pictures.
didn't make it. The whole goal.
So that's moving nicely. Our construction plan specifications for the water transmission line are nearing completion. We'd like to put that out to bid probably within the next 4 to 6 weeks and start construction in September.
That's great.
The seawall design, as the board is aware, Colliers Engineering has done the seawall. I know that they've submitted a couple of updates to the council. I think it's moving ahead nicely. They've been in contact with the Corps about the design, and I think we have the right engineering team for the job because they're actually answering some of the Corps questions that the Corps is asking them, their own people. So I'm pleased to report that I think that project's moving ahead nicely.
I saw the Army Corps out there a couple weeks ago, too, doing their test pit on the corner there, so they're moving along.
The beach and maintenance for the dune, our plans are complete. We are going to submit our application to the state. Just recognize that the state will not approve it until we have our public access plan approved. I spoke with Mr. Hurlis, who is moving that forward,
Okay,
not as quickly as we would like, but he is moving it forward.
okay, good.
And the promenade restrooms, the plans were completed by the architect. Our office is preparing the bid specs. I think we sent a request over for that to come up with some dates for the next council meeting to go out to bid.
Oh, that'd be great.
So I think Matt had emailed you earlier in the week to see what dates we could use.
That'd be
We'd like to bid it in by the end of July. Hopefully, we'll have a local construction company.
Right.
We could work during the summer because it's really all interior.
That's great.
And other than that, Council, Mayor, that's all I have.
The promenade restroom, I know Deputy Mayor, you've been working on that one, and to get that one going would be great. It's for the public, that's the restroom that doesn't exist behind the beach tag office. Right now, it's like the most valuable storage space in the country. So that would allow us to get the trailer off of the Beach Avenue. And it's also why the trailer bathroom in front of Convention Hall has not been rehabbed on the exterior as the other bathrooms have been rehabbed. Obviously, if we're going to start this project this summer, we didn't want to spend any money on the exterior of that trailer.
May I add something, Mayor?
Please.
I just want to mention that Mayor called me last week, and we met up at the Elmira Street substation, and we were really, scratching our heads about having both the sidewalk, and you're involved with this as well, a sidewalk and vegetation in front of the substation. I think I'm very supportive of your support, or thankful of your support in this, and all of City Council to get that sidewalk and possibly trees. And if it means, I think possibly if we have the storm grates there, we might have to move the sidewalk out a little bit, but still have the storm grates collect water from the side, not necessarily on top. But I just think, pedestrian safety coming from West Cape May is something I've been really trying to push for more than 8 years, believe it or not, just for that little section. And trees, and with the conversation that the mayor had with Vince, the trees are not only shade it or, screen it a little bit, but protect pedestrians as they walk on the sidewalk as street trees. And I thought that was a great idea. And
So move the sidewalk adjacent to the fence and then put the landscape curbside.
yeah.
That was Vince's idea, and I thought that was such a good one. And just to explain that to the public, one of the issues, and to compliment, Shane's been working on that sidewalk for so long and advocating for it. So that's why I wanted to make sure we met and tried to hammer out something that would make sense. And Vince mentioned, because one of the issues from Atlantic City Electric's perspective is they don't want landscaping and trees up against their fence, because then they feel like animals can get over the fence and could potentially get into the substation, et cetera. But Vince was talking about, okay, fine, put the sidewalk right next to the fence, put the landscaping street side. It protects pedestrians. It still blocks some of the views that we don't want to see, and
Eliminates
get
their
both.
concern about the squirrels jumping over.
Right.
Squirrels are going to get over them.
Yeah.
They're going to get through to
Yeah.
the bottom.
Yes.
And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, if I may, there were some concerns about some of the delays of Lafayette Street and where we are with that. I just want to put it out there. We're waiting for SHPO, and I talked about that with the mayor. I'm thankful for that too. SHPO and DEP, unfortunately, we're waiting for SHPO, and that's the next in the line of the last two check boxes, I guess.
And HUD.
And HUD. So it's unfortunately a thing that we're going through the pains with the rest of you. Unfortunately, our park has been hijacked from the city for a long time, and I think we're all committed to getting that it's done as soon as possible, just like the trails.
Yeah. And your city manager, Mr. Vole, pointed out Pennsylvania Avenue, that work was done.
Looks good.
And they did a fabulous job. And I got to compliment the contractor. I mean, from start to finish, that job was less than 4 weeks. And that's a water line completion and,
And we had to get-
the final paving. And-
Entrance to our Coast Guard base, so we had to get that done quick. They did a good
and
job.
They did a nice job and very few change orders. In fact, I think we're under budget on that. I think the change order that we approved actually reduced the contract amount. Can't take credit for that. The county came in and did the first 15 feet, which took it off our plates. So
That's great.
the contract was reduced on that.
Great. Any other questions, council? All right. Thank you very much, Vince.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Yep. We have a presentation on the updates to the historic design standards. Chairman of the HPC, Warren Copeland. Warren, thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. I'm joined today by Bob Feinberg, solicitor
Feinberg,
for the HPC, and Pip Campbell,
Pip.
long-term member of the HPC. And
Mr. Copeland, could you move the microphone a little closer to you?
Yes.
Thank you.
most of you have some idea of what we're doing, but I do want to spend 10 minutes or so. This is a huge project. We received a grant last May, so it's a year in the making, $44,700 to update our design standards. And the design standards that we currently have are award-winning, so it sets a bit of a challenge for us to rewrite them. The grant is 3 phases, really. It's the design standards, that is the book. It is the public outreach education piece, and making it available online. Today, we're only going to talk about the book. That's where we are. The other pieces are being worked on, but we're seeking approval for the book today. I think I want to mention up front what this is not, because I think maybe some people may have a concern. What this is not is an increase in the authority of the HPC. Everything that's in the new book has been presented to council before and has been approved, so it's not a reach. It is really a consolidation. What has happened before, since our book is 20 years old, the current book is 20 years old, a number of ordinances have been presented to the city council and passed and approved, and an applicant now has to be familiar with the book and then somehow try to figure out what other ordinances may or may not apply to their project. And so this book is intended to consolidate all of that.
Can I ask a question directly on that one?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, when there's another ordinance update, I know you have this digitized, which is great, and I think it's a lot easier, user-friendly. Will we be able to add that to, obviously once an ordinance is passed, to the,
That's going to be an online piece. And,
Right.
And we're going to talk about that in the future, but yes.
okay,
Regarding the book, though, I mean, the book is printed.
right.
And once it's printed, then we're stuck until
Right.
we renew it again.
Makes sense.
Some of the ordinances you're aware of, but just to mention, we have, like, for example, the flood adaptation, where how to elevate a historic home while maintaining its historic integrity. And that's wording is picked up from that ordinance and put right into the book. And there's several others which I'm sure you're aware of, solar panels and antennas and replacement windows and whatnot. We wanted to change the book, update the book because of that. And secondly, in 2017, the Secretary of Interior updated their book. So the first book, and the one you're familiar with, actually uses verbiage right out of the Secretary of Interior standards. Then in 2017, they released another book, which is really, really well done and quite different, rather than being so static in what the issue is. It is I would say, an educational piece. It's well-written, it's instructional, there's examples, there is pieces that show what not to do as well as what to do. And what we wanted to do is upgrade our own text to reflect that same effort. So the wording in the new book is much more instructive, I think. It's much clearer. And we have examples in the book also of what to do and what not to do. There's illustrations, so not only in the book will you see a narrative, but then on the side, you'll see an illustration that depicts that. So, for example, you'll be able to, as Chris brought up the other day, you'll be able to see a better understanding of what streetscape is. It'll show lines through roof elevations and setbacks and whatnot. This project has been like a year long, and it is a tremendous effort. And the HPC asked Pip Campbell to take the lead on this project and to form a team that represented a number of disciplines. So it's not just done in a vacuum. And she's done an extraordinary job in bringing this team together. And I would like to ask her to just take a minute and you can't introduce because they're not all here, but I think to state the name and what area of expertise they're representing.
So I think two things have made these design standards exceptional. They really are exceptional. And one is that we were very, very, as we would say in Philadelphia, blessed to have a contractor who did this, who's Stephen Smolin, a young man who's from North Jersey, who did just a fabulous, fabulous job. And the second thing I think that made these successful was, in fact, this committee. So we had a committee, we have a committee, not had. We have a committee, it has 13 people on it. 4 of them are people that are from the city, like zoning, and Lorraine is our HPC person, and Judy, who you all know, who's actually the administrator for the grant. And then we had a number of people from the HPC, 5 people from the HPC, most of whom are full-time, year-round Cape May residents, so that was really an asset. And then we had other people who I selected to be people that would be able to do something with this. So like Trina Vaux, who many of you may know, whose husband and Trina also were part of this whole HAB survey that's on the wall here. So Trina was on the committee. Mary Pat Myers, who you all know. Many, many people were on. And I think a primary goal of the people on the committee was that these standards should be able to be understood by anybody. Just anybody should be able to pick up the book, be able to look at it, be able to do it. And so they all contributed really quite a bit. Mary Pat actually took a lot of the pictures that are being used in the book. Trina did all the editing and stuff like that, got all the HABs drawings, which are included in the book. I hope you guys were able to look at some of it. So this has really been an effort where people in the community have been able to have input into what would make this helpful and things like that. So from my standpoint, I think most of you who know me know that, I'm really all about historic preservation. And I think I'm about walk the walk and not just talk the talk. But in Cape May, our whole livelihood, really, I don't live here full time, but the economic viability of this town is based on historic preservation and being able to continue to preserve things historically and to be able to maintain that, what brings people to Cape May. So I think these standards will contribute to that. I hope they will. And as Warren mentioned, and you all got a copy of them electronically, I hope you kind of breezed through them, although they are very long, 100 pages. But all of them the whole thing is linked so that somebody can say, oh, I want to know about roofs, and they can link right into the roof section, and they can link into all the extra resources that are there about roofs. And I think that's what when we do the public outreach part and can show people how this works, I think that's what will make it easier for people to be able to understand how they contribute to the town and not just think, oh, it's the HPC wants us to do blah, blah, blah. You know, everybody in this community needs to want to do it, or we're not going to have much left in the future.
It's beautiful too, by the way. I mean,
Isn't it gorgeous? Yeah.
The photos, the graphics, which makes it easier to read, you know, I mean, it's, and.
This guy did a fabulous job, and I always say this because when I first saw that he was going to be the contractor, I was a little bit nervous but you guys will appreciate this, but this kid is like 26 years old, 27 years old. I'm like, oh my God, how will he ever do this? But he has done it fabulously. He really has. He's very responsive to people. He's very, very communicative. And it's great work, great work.
And he was strongly supported by SHPO. So, and SHPO is also aware of the activity that we're engaged in, so.
Just to comment on what you said, Pip, thank you. First off, I know we all thank you, recognizing all the hard work that is put into this. I like the word, it's standards, obviously, for an applicant, but I like the word you used as like a guidebook too. It's almost like, think of it like a Boy Scout handbook. You know, I think as someone in town, just to be able to flip through and take a look at some of the cool, and it is cool, little projects that people have done over the last 100 years, and little examples of something that what makes Cape May so unique is really in that book, and so it's just such a wonderful job.
I just want to add that in addition to PIP's subcommittee, we also had involvement in what I'll call the front end of the book, the process and the importance of historic preservation in the town and the place of the commission, and very instrumental in that was also Chris, myself, and Steve and Pip. We had several online meetings and in-person meetings regarding that to smooth that out. And one thing I want to say about Steve, the consultant, was he may be young and from North Jersey, but he sure listened to what our local issues were and our local concerns, and he incorporated them in this book. So, you know, really hats off to him and his team and everybody that worked on this. It's a terrific product and should last, you know, with some modifications, another 20 years, hopefully.
Great.
Yeah, there's really kudos to the team, Pip especially. Yeah, this is really a significant advancement in the way we're communicating with the public. So, yeah, we're excited. In fact, I might share with you, out of interest, you may be interested in seeing this. This is 1977, a book, 45 years ago. So we've come a long way. Also, it's a handbook. It's not yet standards. And our current book was written in 2002, printed and presented in 2002, so it's 20 years. So to Bob's point, I would expect that Pip and Bob and I will be here 20 years from now with the fourth.
The fourth edition. I like it. I like it.
Try next year.
Good. Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, we're hoping for approval so that we can move on to the next phase of the public outreach and the system. So.
That's great. Again, and the other thing too, you mentioned it, but the search, the way to search within the online makes it so much easier to, like you said, roofs goes right to good examples and good stuff.
Yeah.
And if I could, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I just really, working with the subcommittee, working with the HPC, it's And then looking at this document at the end, Pip, you really took the lead on this, and I was looking at the original timeline saying, I don't know how this is going to be done, and you kept us on track. Between John Becker, B. Pasagno, there were a lot of, people behind the scenes. I mean, we could go on, and, thank all sorts of people, but you did a nice job of that. Just the next steps, as we're looking at, okay, we're looking at the approval tonight, or today to do this. The next step would be the public outreach, as you said, Mr. Copeland, as well as the online version of it. But we also have planning board. We need to look at consistency with the master plan. Could you explain a little bit of that?
Sure. So for purposes of the grant reimbursement, there is a public outreach program, and that is going to serve a natural benefit anyway, even if it wasn't tied to a grant. But procedurally, what is proposed on tonight's agenda would be to adopt on first reading an update to the ordinance to incorporate these new design standards, the new old standards. Essentially, it's the restatement of our standards in a more readable and user-friendly format. And there's also an amendment in here to strike some of the references to the updates that have occurred over the years to just confirm that this is the new Bible for HPC standards. And by doing it through the ordinance process, that's already built into our code, but by adopting these through the ordinance process, you give what the HPC does at their meetings, interpreting these standards and applying them, the force of law in the city of Cape May as a development regulation. So because it's a development regulation, you adopt on first reading, and then we'll send to the planning board to get their master plan consistency review. And then once we get that report from the planning board, whatever comments there may be, if any, council can consider those, and then we can consider second reading and a hearing and adoption. Yep. And then their public outreach can continue on, parallel, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Great.
I just, if I can add something too, I was fortunate enough to be involved in this process early with Pip and Mr. Feinberg and Mr. Smolin, and as a fellow young person, maybe 36, I don't know if that's still young, but it was extremely, I echo those comments that, coming from North Jersey is very focused on Cape May's concerns, and I have to say from numerous vantage points, I think the work product is just going to serve a better outcome for applicants, for the board, for people that are moving into town and looking at development. And the chairman and Mr. Feinberg, we spoke about this a couple days ago, but a good example of that, just to illustrate the Venn diagram that applicants face in the city of Cape May, and to understand that, that you have to get multiple approvals, and that's sort of the charm and the burden of developing in town. But there's a section here on height, massing, proportions, and scale, and it shows you really what the HPC is concerned with in terms of streetscape, so that we have height limitations for zoning, but if you're in the historic district, you need to take in the streetscape, and so there are some additional considerations, and I think these new design standards give very good direction and visuals to illustrate that. So, I don't think anybody can be really surprised as to the comments they may receive when the applicants come in. So,
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Why don't we bring this
I think we should,
to the top? Does anyone want to make a motion on ordinance 508, 2023?
I'll make a motion. Oh, sorry.
Good. We have a motion by Deputy Mayor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. This is, I'm sorry, do you want, go ahead.
I was just going to read it. Yeah, this is an ordinance updating and adopting historic design standards for the City of Cape May Historic Preservation Commission.
And obviously, this is what we just spoke about.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments, council?
No, nothing else to say except for what an amazing amount of work you people do for this city, and we're in great shape for the next 20 years. Thank you so much. Very good
Nice
stuff.
job, really nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All
Mayor,
right.
can I just add something really quick before the vote too? Because you asked about if new amendments come online. And the intent here is to provide an online resource, and there's a web link in parentheses built into this code amendment. So the idea is here that whatever, if there's new information, it'll be available in a, user-friendly format online on the HPC's website.
Would it make sense to add language that the web link is typically updated and would supersede the book?
Well, that can be noted. Any updates could be noted in the website. Here are the 2023 standards, and then, any updates could be, shown on the website with an ordinance reference if it's adopted later.
Right.
Okay.
We would probably just attach,
was
like,
gonna
if we have a
say-
physical copy, we may just attach the ordinance as a supplement to, like, a hard in-house copy, but 99% of the time, people are going to be looking at it online. So.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments, council? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Great work. Thank you.
All right, council, we have other ordinances for introduction. We do have ordinance 506, 2023, an ordinance amending zoning code to include recommendations made pursuant to the 2019 master plan reexamination.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on 506, council?
I have, Mayor, a question, actually a comment, and it looks at the memorandum in the back, and if you turn to page 7 of 14, where the master plan changes look at sign regulations, in here it states that sign regulation 52548B requires all signs which are not temporary signs shall require the overall or the approval of the planning board or zoning board, depending on which board has jurisdiction. I'd like to add HPC into that because they have jurisdiction over signage as well.
Sure do.
I'm absolutely fine with that. Where are you reading?
On
Page
page
7.
7 of 14 as part of the,
Okay, thank you.
as part of
They have design standards.
the attachment from
Yeah.
the engineer.
Yeah, they do have design
Yeah.
standards.
Mr. Solicitor, do you have a suggestion on how we could phrase that, or?
It does say that in section 2, if any signs which are not temporary signs are to be placed in the historic district, they shall also require the approval of the Historic Preservation Commission.
How long is a temporary sign? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can just say I've seen some temporary signs that stayed up all winter long, this year.
Yeah, it's true.
Not that they weren't nice, but, should be consistent.
Well, does that alleviate your concern?
Well,
I don't know, because are we
Well,
looking at temporary signs as well?
Well, the first, well, the statement under number 1 ends with, upon which board has jurisdiction. I mean, and it stipulates both planning and zoning. It could include HPC in that statement. But Councilman Meyer brings up an interesting point about what is the duration on a temporary sign, because statement 3 says that they don't have any they can't be granted relief.
A temporary sign is defined in section 48, a sign intended to display either commercial or non-commercial messages of a transitory or temporary nature. This shall include flags, banners, streamers, and posters, portable signs or any signs not permanently embedded in the ground or not permanently affixed to a building, or sign structure that is permanently embedded in the ground, as well as flags, banners, streamers, and posters are considered temporary signs. So anything that's not a fixture.
So it could be there for extended periods of time, as long as it doesn't meet one of those conditions. which doesn't seem, I would think you would want to have some limitation on that.
Maybe we just change the top, because I don't know. The rest of it does talk about the approval of the Planning or Zoning Board. It should say HPC at the top.
Yeah, I agree with you
clearly.
on that point. I'm now on point number
Okay.
2.
Okay.
On
Yeah.
meeting the conditions of, if it's a temporary sign, it doesn't, nowhere did it state, Chris, that a duration, as long as it doesn't meet one of those conditions, it could be there,
No, it could be a flag that's there for 3 months under this.
okay, or a year.
Or a year.
Okay, all right.
Until it gets tattered and blows
Okay,
away.
all right.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing in my head is, because we have some beautiful houses with beautiful signs out front, and if you just say if it's temporary because it's got 2 hooks, it could easily come
You
off.
can take it off.
You definitely want all those signs to, represent the historic nature of the buildings as well, I don't know, something we probably look forward into, and maybe ask an opinion from the planning board.
Well, let me make a suggestion, because let's not try to define temporary at the table.
Not here.
No.
So I would agree with the whatever everyone wants to do, but I agree with the deputy mayor. Adding HPC to number 1 there makes sense to me, just to make it abundantly clear. This is introduction.
Correct.
So I would recommend that we look at the definition of temporary, and if we feel it, is clear in this or not, we update it by the next meeting then, for second reading. Does that make sense?
And on that comment, the suggestion is to add where it says, shall require the approval of the planning board or zoning board or board of adjustment or historic preservation commission.
Do you want to make that in the form of an amendment?
Yes, I would.
So I have a motion to amend to include HPC in section 1 under general requirements. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is everyone clear on that? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. Would someone make a motion on the amended ordinance 506?
I'll make a motion on the amended ordinance.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments, council? And again, we can further define temporary before second reading.
But I just have one quick question. Do temporary signs have to meet all of the standards of a permanent sign?
Right.
No, it
No,
says
they
that
don't.
specifically.
Number
that-
3, it says
Yeah.
that specifically.
It can be whatever.
Right, exactly.
Whatever size and, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
There may be other standards out there, but
And I
they're
think
not in
that's
this
a
section.
That's a concern.
That is,
Well,
that's
it's,
what
and
we
it should
need
be.
to look at.
That's what I was going to say.
That's why, that's why I think we just
Don't
need to
worry
come
about
up
it
with
if it's
something that
standard.
defines temporary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roll call?
Okay. Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Next, we have Ordinance 507, 2023, an ordinance amending zoning code to include minimum requirements for landscape buffers to surround private and semi-private swimming pools.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments, council?
I just have a comment on this. I had actually asked Solicitor Gillen Schwartz to take a look at this. And this really comes about from my time on the zoning board and just hearing comments back from so many people who, came to the meetings because a neighbor was putting in a pool. And they really just wanted to, make sure that there was additional buffer space or something that addressed their concerns if they were on the side yard or in the rear. And so I think this is a nice compromise in, allowing for that additional buffer around pools to be cognizant of neighbors who, who live here, residential. A lot of times pools are put into some of the investment properties and does, create more of an issue and a challenge. So I thought this was a nice compromise for adding to the ordinance and recognizing, some of the concerns that have been raised during zoning meetings, so.
That's great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, council?
Just give maybe just an outline for the public.
Please.
of what we're doing. Yeah, there were some concerns expressed about pools, and one of the things that we looked at is what are we currently doing with them? Now, they're not permitted in every zone. Specifically, the R4 excludes them. Recent zoning application, kind of saw that play out. Now, we already have 100-foot lot coverage for pools. We already have 10-foot setbacks from side and rear yards, which compared to other towns, you might view those as tougher. You may see 5-yard setbacks in other towns, less counting towards lot coverage. So Cape May is, I think on the tougher side when it comes to setbacks and lot coverage requirements. So one of the things that we don't have necessarily built in there, sometimes it may come up in the context of applications when they're before applicants, but what if they don't go to the board and have all that feedback and review by the planning board engineer? Well, one of the things you can do is build in the concept of a natural fence, green space requirement, and some towns have adopted that. And in this case, it would require 4 feet of green space in addition to the setbacks. Within the 10 feet that you're required, you need to have 4 feet dedicated to green space around the rear and sides, so that basically 3 sides of this thing should be screened off, and that might lend to some noise reduction and some preservation of privacy, and having good fences make good neighbors in those cases where pools are going in. So, and might be a nice thing for the streetscape too, to be seeing that type of landscaping instead of just bare fence or seeing what's going on in somebody's backyard. So that was the idea of where maybe a perceived gap in the code could help improve situations where these pools are going in, and that seemed like a logical next step. And spoke to the planning and zoning engineer about that concept, and he seemed on board with that. So the next step, like the HPC design standards, if council wants to proceed with this, would be to send it along to the planning board for master plan consistency review.
I meant to speak to Maureen about this prior to the meeting, and I just totally forgot and asked you, Chris. First of all, I fully support it. I think it makes a ton of sense and is very beneficial. There was just 2 things that I wanted to bring up, and I forgot. It says D under the new part, where it says irrigation systems are to be provided for all new plantings. And it's a question, I'm not trying to be smart, but what about drought-tolerant plantings, which are, of course, what we'd like to encourage, that don't require irrigation? I obviously understand the intent here is you can't just plant something, let it die, and then it's gone. But do you think that this ordinance allows for that? I mean, this specifically says irrigation systems are to be provided for all new plantings.
I think the implication there is appropriate irrigation to keep the plantings alive. This is not designed to allow people to plant stuff and let it die the next year, and then you don't have a screening anymore.
Right.
So if the recommendations are to have, this level of irrigation, this level of, I guess what you're pointing to is, do we need to waste water if we don't need to?
Well, like in just a good example is the city just did a bunch of plantings, and they did a really nice job working with the Environmental Commission, trying to pick drought tolerant plants, pollinator plants, all things that the city wants to see.
They provide the level and height that would.
No,
condition.
probably not.
And that's why I'm trying to think of
Right.
something in the category of what you're talking about. I'm sorry, in the category of what you're talking about would not necessarily be at a height that would conform to being drought.
No, and any new planting is going to need watering, even drought-tolerant plants. I just want to make sure that we're encouraging what the Environmental Commission is asking for. Last topic, too, on this. It says, and again, I apologize for not bringing this up prior. All landscape plants shall be typical full specimens conforming to the American Association of Nurserymen standards. Can we add in here somewhere a reference to the Environmental Commission's recommendations for plantings? Because as Mike knows well, the Environmental Commission reviews all of the.
Invasive species.
Right.
Yeah.
So on a lot of planning board applications, we'll actually get not necessarily a denial from the Environmental Commission, but strongly suggest
Conditional,
these
yeah.
plannings. I think it'd just be nice to point people in the right direction right from the beginning. Hey, take a look at the Environmental Commission's recommendations when you choose your, plant specimens, maybe even the Shade Tree
I
Commission.
was going to go right on it. Well,
Right.
Same thing.
And then, and I'm sure they're going to love this as it is already. So I'll bring it to them to review as well.
Yeah, I think actually the commission could make, the plantings have to be 6 feet tall.
Right.
And I'm sure that there's not that many screening plants 6 feet tall
Right.
that fall, that are drought tolerant and.
Right.
Cedars.
In other words, the Environmental Commission could really come up with, a few suggestions for, it doesn't have to be in the ordinance, of course, but
Well, we could-
we just might let people know what we're suggesting.
We could, we could add in here in section A, typical full specimens conforming to the, ANA for quality and installation, and consistent with the recommendations of
The Environmental Commission.
the environmental, commission for those. Because like you said, it's not going to be a bunch of trees, it's probably going to be a few that can fit that category of, height and those things. Is that something council may want to add, just to indicate, we also want to have the Environmental Commission to, have some say in the trees that are going to go in?
Would that be a major change?
This is on for
If we
first
were to do
reading.
that-
You could do it right now.
If we decided to do it later, would that constitute a major change to have to
I think it would be,
introduce it?
Yeah.
Councilman
Okay.
Meyer. So that's why I say if we were considering doing that now, this is something we could add in.
I would like that.
I would agree. I think that we should have it.
Well,
in there.
we're
It's
not
consistent.
mandating that they do that, right? We're making.
Suggesting that they review what.
We want to
right.
suggest plants, but,
Right.
if people want to put arborvitae up, we really should be able to put arborvitae up.
It's the Environmental Commission recommendations.
Yeah.
It's not mandates.
So,
Well,
my legal question is, do you want it to be a may or a shall?
I mean, if it's
You
if it's a condition of approval, you probably want some more direction in that language.
Yeah, I'm really only even saying this to help the applicant.
The applicant.
Because they go through this process, and then the Environmental Commission says, these plants are all wrong, what were you doing? And they could say, well, I was reading your code and it said nothing about it.
Could you say something that requires that there, nothing that's on the non-permitted list can be planted, because there's a
They
list.
could,
Understand
they couldn't
the-
do that anyway.
Oh,
The Environmental
So-
Commission is not mandating what we all plant.
Yeah.
They are making recommendations and asking that this is what we do. And so I think it's a may.
A may
you
and not
know.
a shall.
We want it to be considered. We want to know up front it should be considered
Right.
that, to be environmentally friendly. But some people are going to say, no.
Here's the way I see this playing out in practice, is we have a code section that says all landscape plants are typical full specimens conforming to ANA for quality and installation. Someone's going to come in with a pool application and say, all right, I got to do green space, what do you want me to do? And the zoning officer, at that point, will have some feedback from, we can send this to the planning board, we can let the environmental commission know that this is on the table too, and they can say, these are the 4 trees or 5 trees, whatever it is, that we like, and that can be a reference for anybody that's making an application. Like, this is the list of types of trees that we like for this category. But again, they should fit in with the
other descriptors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
because
would
the goal
agree
is
with
to
that.
provide a screen. so
Right,
cool.
yeah.
That's,
I agree with that.
and it
Recommendation.
doesn't have to be one layer, too.
No,
They can
yeah,
have.
exactly.
So
Yeah, staggered.
that
Right.
sounds good.
Okay.
So what would the recommended amendment be, if any?
An A.
Well, and you could leave it as is and recognize that the recommendations will be out there and they can be referred to, or you can mandate that people,
Adhere to 6 or 7 based on the Environmental Commission's
Yeah.
recommendations? Okay.
those are the two options on the table. We can leave it with just the A&A, whatever the list is.
I like the recommendations only for this reason. People submit their application,
They should.
the Environmental Commission reviews it, and sometimes they say, hey, this is nothing like our recommendations.
right.
So why don't we point people in the right
Right.
direction?
Yeah, I would agree. It's less frustrating for an applicant if it's up front, because, then being sent back around to have a new landscape plan put
Yeah.
together is a delay and an additional
So
cost.
do we just want to say
In A.
conforming to the recommended list of plannings by the Cape May Environmental Commission?
Yes.
Yes.
Instead of, take A&A out of it?
Yeah.
Just, this is what Cape May wants.
I think so, yeah.
Yep.
Can we add "and the Shade Tree Commission"?
Yes, absolutely, I agree, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Everyone okay with that?
Yep, absolutely.
Does someone want to make a motion to amend?
I'll make the motion to amend based on Mr. Gillen-Schwartz's recommendation.
Does everyone understand that? Go ahead, Mr.
So it would be, all plantings shall be a typical full specimens and conforming to, get rid of A&A, new language, list of plantings approved by the Environmental Commission
And Shade Tree.
And Shade Tree Commission.
and Shade Tree Commission.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Any other questions, comments, council? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember McDade,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to introduce as amended?
So moved.
Pardon me, yes. I have a motion by Mr. Meyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember McDade,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have ordinance 509-2023, an ordinance amending Section 7 of the City of Cape May Code to establish additional stop intersections along Elmira Street and Venice Avenue.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments, council?
If I may, Mayor?
Please.
And I spoke to City Manager Vole today in reference to this, and I know we were talking about possibly making this a temporary stop sign on Elmira and Venice there. Just to kind of gather some additional information, there is a lot of construction that's going on between Lafayette Street, between the ACE station. A lot of traffic is being diverted by there, and I think it's exacerbated the situation. Maybe we just look at this and, make this just temporary. And in addition, with Mr. Brzezinski and Manager Vole, we talked about additional signage, because I don't think a lot of people know that we changed our speed limit to 20 miles an hour. So even, adding additional signage throughout the city, not to make it crazy signage, but, adding them in strategic places, as well as adding, and I think you thought that this is, something that we should do, is something as you're coming into all of the arteries in the town. City of Cape May now has a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it's strictly enforced. Something to that effect. People probably don't
Use
know.
the term, I think when this first came up, I told Zach and Councilman that it should be, we're a slow zone community.
Or
I mean,
something to that effect.
Yeah, it's just make sure that people are aware. I mean, use it as a marketing, campaign. We should be trying to promote it so that people are aware as soon as they're coming onto the island or they have plans to come onto the island. And it should be that it's for the island community, because West Cape May and Cape May Point, would like to be consistently considered, in some of those things. So just something.
To add to the conversation, I was thinking when you were talking about strategic locations, what comes to my mind is anywhere you're getting off a county road. So if you're getting off Broadway, you might want to start a sign right at the beginning of the block. If you're getting off Pittsburgh, you might want to start a sign right at the beginning of the block. Same with Madison, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So we have, just to remind everybody, we have, we're working on, we have an RFP out to put together a plan for the, bicycle and pedestrian safety in the town, as well as LSV's safety, everybody's safety in town. And part of that plan will be looking to the engineers, the designers, to come up with the type of signs that we're talking about in the appropriate places. So they'll be making suggestions. I mean, it's going to be down the road a little bit, but with this grant, we hope to get, of course, another grant from the state then, and the county, whomever that comes from, for implementing the plan. So it will come. It will come.
Bike Walk Cape May, which I think was done sometime around 2014 or 15. It's been a while.
Yeah, right.
But the first phase was great. And really, we might want to revisit that at just, in fact, maybe that'd be a presentation from your committee, but
Yes.
because we've kind of checked off a lot of boxes from that. And so it's perfect timing for this grant to almost kind of do phase 2.
The RFP is going out to the guys that did the
That's
Bike
great.
Walk Cape May.
That's great. So any other questions on this ordinance,
I
Council?
do. So
Go
what,
ahead.
what was your temporary time period, were you thinking, Deputy Mayor? Do we have an idea when the construction is supposed to be done?
When construction is probably complete, I mean, we're looking at Lafayette Street in the fall.
Would that include
ACE
the?
should be wrapping up.
Would that include
shortly.
the installation of the sidewalk and, at
Mm-hmm.
what point are we, do we want to consider it complete? So if the sidewalk construction needs to take place after
Mm-hmm.
the substation,
Just came to my knowledge, the mayor brought to my attention was that Atlantic City Electric is going to repave that section as well. Is that correct?
As well as Venice.
So,
Yeah.
let's, I know, I totally agree with you, Deputy Mayor, and I'd like to see us relook at this again in the future, but how do we do that? How do we, give it a year?
Maybe,
I think
What-
even
what's
just
your-
through the
yeah.
summer and through the.
City
through-
Manager,
but-
when it anticipated end of ACE, that should be
That
in the
should be
fall?
soon.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
when they
the-
pave,
Yeah, the paving would be in the
right,
fall.
in the
Yeah.
fall.
I'd just like to make a couple comments, if I can, on this subject matter. I met with Councilman Yeager and the Bike Safety Committee, Pedestrian Committee last week, and they're very concerned. I'm concerned coming out of West Cape May, being on a bicycle, when you get into our tight intersection there, somebody getting hurt, that's the one thing. The other thing, I explained that we did put 20-mile-an-hour speed limit signs both ways coming in and out. If we have to increase more, we also have, and then we went into Terry, the chairperson, mentioned supporting stop signs. I told him we were looking at doing it, which we did at Venice and Elmira. We told the committee we intend to make three-way stop to calm traffic and to make it quieter. And as a result, we're getting compliments from the neighbors. Matter of fact, one neighbor came in and said that the noise, dealing with decibels, went from 95 to 65, the reduction of noise with the big trucks traveling by, et cetera. I work with the captain, Police Captain Volvic, monitored, having a police car there monitoring what's going on. We're viewing the drivers. Yeah, there was a few in the beginning that went through because it's all new. They're not used to it. We put the red flashing stop signs, and that's really been effective. We put the white stripes in the street. Lower Township made me a couple signs, stop ahead, as you're coming in both directions. When I returned to my office, a resident came up in person that lives there and said, just want to thank you guys. We really like what you did back there with Broadway and Elmira with a four-way stop, and now this really helps the safety of our neighborhood. So, if you make it temporary or permanent, it's up to the council's decision. My job as your manager is to provide public safety, and I could tell you the neighborhood is very pleased that temporary or permanent.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes through the summer. There's Captain and I are concerned about liability because if it's temporary, God, if there's indeed a serious incident at the intersection, we want to make sure that we're covered. So, but anyway, so far so good.
Yeah, it's
We had there'll be posted three-way stop, and hopefully people are listening today of what we're talking about, and we can get more publicity, letting people know. But it's working. I sat out there again today for a little while. those red, the mayor suggested doing the red stop signs that we did at Broadway and Elmira. That gets your attention. And hopefully it'll save lives, keep the neighbors happy. And you know, they say do a traffic study. The best traffic study I see is talk to the neighbors. The neighbors are the ones that have to deal with it every day. I was sharing with council years ago when I was mayor of Middle Township, people used to speed through Maryland Avenue to beat the traffic light at 9 and 47 and come out by ShopRite. We didn't have to do a traffic study. I put four-way stops at both intersections. No accidents, everybody's happy, it's quieter. And that's the traffic studies I listen to, is the people. Thank you.
Okay. We could, certainly any ordinance could be revisited, so
Yeah.
I think we see how this works for some time. I don't think we need to put necessarily a time limit on it, but whenever a member of council, really thinks we should take a look again at this, let's do it.
Okay.
Good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring up something for housekeeping. It was brought up to my attention in my email that there currently is a stop sign at Pearl and Corgi, but it's not incorporated in this list. So I was wondering if that's okay, if I would add a amendment to this list to include the stop sign at Pearl and Corgi.
I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
With an existing stop sign.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to include that.
Okay. So I guess you'll amend the ordinance to include Perry, or what'd you say, Pearl?
Pearl.
No, I'm sorry, yeah, Pearl and Corgi.
Pearl and Corgi. Okay.
I actually ran 5 minutes before the meeting, try to understand what the person was saying, but I understand that the sign is there, but not in the ordinance.
Do I have a second to that motion, to amend?
I'll second it.
Councilman Meyer, just orienting myself for the amendment.
Yeah.
Where are you going to counter the stop sign? Is it when you're driving on Pearl, when you're driving?
Driving on Pearl towards Corgi, that's a one-way road.
Okay, like from the direction of Columbia then?
Yes, well, from Page,
From Page, okay, so Page to Corgi, that
Down Pearl.
direction, there's a stop sign, okay. Behind the post office.
that's correct.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call on the amended ordinance?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes?
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. Do I have a motion on the amended ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes?
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have ordinance 510-2023, an ordinance of the City of Cape May amending the revised general ordinances of the City of Cape May to provide for the restricted handicap parking space at or adjacent to 1017 Lafayette Street.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Any questions, comments, council? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes?
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Finally, 511-2023, a bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of a fire truck and related apparatus by and in the City of Cape May, in the County of Cape May, State of New Jersey, appropriating $1 million therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $952,381 of bonds or notes of the city to finance part of the cost thereof.
Do I have a motion?
Can I ask a question before we motion this?
Sure.
We also have, and it's a procedural question, we also have Resolution 17806, 2023. That's the resolution to amend the capital budget. I think procedurally, we have to amend that prior to
Approving this ordinance.
approving the ordinance.
Well, this is first reading.
So,
Kevin, you want to chairman for a minute about the capital ordinance on this? I think to answer the deputy mayor's
Do you
concern.
understand what I'm saying? Just logistics-wise. Yeah, procedurally. I was just thinking that we should probably amend the budget first before we. Yeah, that's probably cleaner. Okay.
And if I may, Mayor, Kevin researched it because when he said $1 million, I said, yeah, $1 million. The fire trucks right now are a new one. Right now, we have 2 first respond fire trucks besides the ladder truck and all that. And one's 28 years old that I'm going to replace, and one's 15 years old. Now, I've known through my years in government that when you hit 25 years for the fire truck, you're supposed to replace it. So that's what we're doing. It's going to cost $1 million for a new fire truck, but it may take 2.5 years for us to get it, which will put that 28-year truck at 30 years old at least. So I ask for your support tonight to introduce this so we can continue to protect our future.
Also, just one note to add to that. The reason we're introducing tonight is that after discussion with Fire Chief Alex Coulter, we were made aware of an impending price increase across the board to all quoted fire engines, around 10 to 15%, which could be $150,000 on $1 million engine.
No, I thought your explanation, Kevin,
Oh, yeah.
as background was very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So
Okay, so-
do we procedurally
Should we
go to the
do
resolution?
178?
It's only first reading.
Yeah, it's
So it's
first
okay.
If you didn't
reading.
adopt
So
the resolution.
We won't approve the ordinance.
You wouldn't approve it at the hearing.
Okay.
At second reading.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, just procedurally, I thought maybe we,
You can do it either way. You can do the resolution just to
that's
confirm
fine.
it, and
as long as you're okay with it.
Okay, let's proceed with the ordinance, just for first reading.
Yep.
Do I have a motion on ordinance 511?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other questions or comments, council? I would just echo the comment to Kevin on the analysis. Makes a lot of sense. The fact that the wait time is up to 2.5 years now, we got to get on the wait list.
Yeah.
So obviously, everybody knows how important this is. Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
All right, next, council, we have the public portion on the resolutions only, Mayor, if you're ready.
Yes, do anyone wishing to speak on resolutions only this evening? Anyone here to speak on any resolutions, please come to the microphone.
Okay.
I didn't want to disappoint. Stacy Shan, 928 Columbia Avenue. This is in reference to Resolution 17806. I just want to bring it to the attention that on April 18th, you passed the budget and bonding, and please correct me, Kevin, if I'm wrong on these figures. Bonding was for $8.3 million. On May 2nd, you increased it to $11.4 million. Now, on June 20th, we're at $12.3 million. So we went from 8.3 to 12.3 in a matter of 2 months. And to put it in perspective of the capital budget started off in April at 27 million. In May, it went to 30 million. Now we're at 31 million. And I noticed that the resolution doesn't talk about the amendment that happened on May 2nd. And I don't know if that should be in the resolution, since you did amend the capital budget on May 2nd. My other question, go ahead.
I could, yes, speak a bit on that. So the capital budget in the actual budget document is more of just sort of a guesstimate of projects we're maybe planning to do in the coming years. But anything that we do a bond ordinance for must be included. So that's why we amend, just to make sure. It's even standard wording in the bond ordinance in Section 6, stating that the capital budget of the city is hereby amended to conform with the bond ordinance, just because everything we do a bond ordinance for must be included, but everything in the capital budget, in the budget document, might not necessarily be bonded for or project pursued.
I'm just saying on how much it's increased by the figures that you put in the resolution. And I guess my question to you also is, on that capital budget for this current year, it has improvements to a utility system. What is that utility system?
I believe it would be water sewer utility.
So why wouldn't that be in the water?
It is. It's that the capital budget, that just represents all.
So this capital budget represents everything, including water and
Correct. Beach.
beach?
Yes.
Okay, so the improvements to the utility system, water and sewer, would not be coming out of the capital expense,
It would be paid for by water sewer.
and their bonding?
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess my next question, which we never answered, was in the resolution, why don't we include there the amendment that happened on May 2nd?
Yeah, I think because it was already passed, so there's no need to include it in.
Well, you say here, whereas the local capital budget for the was adopted on the 18th of April, but then you amended it in May.
Yeah.
So shouldn't that be in there that you amended it in
It's
May?
going off of the amended amounts, the current amendment. It's going off of the previous amended amount, so it's building on it.
Okay, I'm still not really clear on why it wouldn't be included.
It could have been included, but it doesn't
Okay.
have to be included. I mean, you get in the habit of making reference to prior ones, but it's not like procedurally deficient if it's not referencing that. That resolution's on file.
Yeah, there's no need to reference it, but as I said, the amounts that it was amended to in the prior one are included in the resolution and are being built off of into
Yeah.
this one.
Okay. My question about this capital is that, we had no tax increase, but we just keep increasing the amount that we're bonding.
It's not a bond, it's a capital budget.
Well, you're going to be bonding for the fire truck, which is why you increased the capital budget, right?
I would just state that we maintain a strict debt schedule that the auditor and I maintain, and we follow it by plugging into all of our outstanding debt to observe year to year the impact on our debt service payments to ensure that there are no surprises, no significant fluctuations
Right.
year to year. We keep
So-
a strict eye on it.
Right, so the increase in the capital budget is because we're buying the fire truck. So it's all related.
But if it's news to anyone that a 28-year-old fire truck needs to be replaced within the next 3 years, I don't know what to say.
It wasn't in your budget to begin with. That's my point.
We heard from the fire chief and from our CFO that it made sense to get in line for a fire truck, and that's what we're doing.
Right.
So
But,
Stacy, during the discussions during the budget, it was on Chief Coulter's list, as with, a lot of, of the department heads came with their list. I think the new news to this was, everyone knew the date of the fire trucks, but the new news was that there was going to be significant increases, as Kevin has said, upwards of $150,000 over the existing if we didn't act on it now. Ideally, could we have pushed it a little bit further and just placed the order and hoped that it came in a shortened period of time? Yes, it was something that he mentioned, I think, to everyone who participated in those discussions. But I think that the new news to this, which makes this actionable now, is the fact that we would be paying $150,000 more if we didn't move on it now. So I think that piece of it was not known to us, at least, was not aware of it, and what Kevin shared with council as to the reason why we were doing this.
Well-
So just I offer that as
yeah.
background.
Well, I just want to say, all prices are going up. So no matter what you're going to buy, the price is going to increase in the next couple of years versus now.
Thank you. Any other comments on resolutions? Mr. Roush?
Jules Rouse, 1010 New York Avenue. I just kind of continue this dialogue about the fire truck. Back when there was discussions about building a new firehouse, it was brought to the city's attention that the fire company needed a pumper, and that's 2 or 3 years ago. This is not something new, and I'd like to express the need to do some long-term planning. We're going to need another ambulance, and I don't know how soon that comes about, but it's in the foreseeable future that it's going to be needed. And then I believe there's also going to be a need for another fire truck in 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. That's got to be planned out, and I would encourage you to think in terms of long-term planning as well as the financing of it.
Thank you. Mr. Bezaire?
Afternoon, Chris Bezaire, 228 Windsor Avenue. I'm just coming real quick. I spoke to Kevin yesterday. I just want to make sure I'm here to discuss 17706-2023, the resolution for the payment of bills. There was a bill that was submitted to Mr. Vole on behalf of the mall merchants for some hanging plants that were omitted from the published payment of bills, and I just want to make sure that was being amended to add to this payment of bills.
Due to the timing of when we received the documentation, we were not able to add it to this bill list. However, if council's in agreement, we could cut a manual check when this week's bill list checks are cut to cover the cost.
Okay, and for clarification for council, so the mall merchants, there are the hanging basket planters around the mall that were installed by the city, paid for by the city years ago, and they've reached their useful life. There was an invoice for $6,700 for the replacement of those, which I presented to Mr. Vole on Tuesday, which was agreed that the city should, they were the ones that paid for the initial ones, they should replace them. And actually, I think we're amending it to be $65.99 as a total, and the mall merchants will pay the rest, because if it was over $6,600, it would trigger multiple bids. So in order to try to speed that up, we were asking to get it put on because time is of the essence, and if we don't get that on until the next meeting, now we're talking about having them paid for in July and installed in August when summer is basically over. So that was the necessity.
I don't have a problem with it, Kevin, if you're okay with it, Mayor. Are you?
The only thing that is, I just want to make sure we're okay with the bidding aspect of this.
The city's being asked to pay under $6,600. It's an exercise of business judgment, but it's
Okay.
up on a bill list.
Fine. Okay. So you're asking?
I would ask for it to be pulled from the consent agenda so that council could amend it to add the bill to be manually paid.
Anyone have an issue with that, council?
I don't have
Thank you. And just on a side note on the speed, I mean, you could have the signs that, welcome to Cape May, life moves a little slower here, your car should too.
Yeah, like it. I like it.
There you go.
Okay, just to take care of what was just said, add that as 179? Well, how would you like us to handle it?
There is already a recommendation to amend the bill list. That was emailed out earlier to include.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Okay.
there was one, I believe, a postage situation from the Water and Sewer Department that was recommended to be added to the bill list.
Okay.
So I guess if you are comfortable in adding this as well, I don't know what kind of information we would need to add it specifically.
The payee would be the, is the payee information included in that?
So we would just know like that council's authorizing payment of what exactly is the number, 6599? To Washington Street Mall Management Company? I don't have it.
Well, we can reasonably identify that. It's
Right.
for the Washington Street Mall, the hanging flower arrangements. I'm probably butchering that by now, but we all know what we're talking about. That would be the motion, and to include that as part of the approved bill list items.
Okay.
So
And just
should we make that?
to be clear on the amount that will be in there.
We'll pull that one.
I think it was $65.99.
Yep.
So should we make that motion now to add to the payment of bills 177?
Yes.
Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Apologies, council, is this motion to also amend,
The original.
based off what I emailed you earlier, to add
Yeah.
the postage for the water department?
Did you understand
I'll
that?
amend my motion to include that, thank
To
you.
both, add both together?
Yes.
Okay,
Do you still second?
Yes,
Okay.
I second.
wonderful, okay. Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember McDade,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
Okay,
No,
Should we pass that as amended now?
it could be as part of the consent agenda as it.
Okay, okay.
Good with that.
Any other public comment on the resolutions this evening? Seeing none, we can close public comment on the resolutions.
Okay. Council, is there anything you would like to remove from the consent agenda this evening?
Anything, council?
No.
Just 172, please.
Okay. Anything else, council? No? Okay.
Mayor, would you like to remove 171
Oh, yeah.
for the liquor
Yeah,
license?
thank you. I thought it was on 172, sorry.
Yep,
Thank you.
no problem. All right, all set? On the consent agenda this evening, we have the police incident report for the month of May 2023, fire incident report for the month of May 2023, tax collector report for the months of April and May 2023, council work session meeting minutes dated March 7th, 2023, council regular meeting minutes dated March 21st, 2023, council special meeting minutes dated April 4th, closed session meeting minutes dated April 4th, work session meeting minutes dated April 4th. We have Resolution 16606, 2023, resolution designated the 2023 Surfing and Bathing Beaches. 16707, 2023, resolution refunding overpaid water sewer utility for 1011 Washington Street. 16806, 2023, resolution for the release of performance guarantee for 933 Beach Avenue. 16906, 2023, resolution authorizing change order numbers 2 and 3 to the contract for reconstruction of Pennsylvania Avenue Phase 5. 17006, 2023, resolution authorizing extension of a professional services agreement for construction oversight of the fire station. 17306, 2023, resolution approving alcoholic beverage club license renewals for the 2023-2024 license year. 17406, 2023, resolution approving donation of personal property to the ARC. 17506, 2023, resolution of the City of Cape May authorizing the annual 4th of July fireworks display. 17606, 2023, resolution authorizing the City of Cape May to accept a sub-grant award for the federal fiscal year 2022 for the Emergency Management Agency assistance. 17706, 2023, resolution for the payment of bills. And 17806, 2023, resolution to amend the capital budget.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call? Please, go ahead.
Question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It says I was absent on a special meeting on April 4th, but I was there for the meeting. I just showed up late for this closed session meeting, so I'm just going to vote yes.
That's fine. It was probably just a copy and paste typo. So that was the special meeting for April 4th?
Right. I was just running late.
All right, we'll fix that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Okay. Going back to 17106, 2023, resolution authorizing renewal of the alcoholic beverage license number 0502-36-016-004 to be considered by the Director of Alcoholic Beverage Control pursuant to the conflict license provisions for the 2023-2024 license year.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Abstain?
17206, 2023, resolution approving alcoholic beverage license renewals for the 2023-2024 license year.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, council?
I know that there were some questions as far as the operation of Elaine's at our last meeting. And I'm wondering if we could have some sort of testimony as far as what the music is going to be, how it's, as far as where the music's moving to, because we look at regulating music within all of our licenses here. From what I gather, it's only going to be on the side from what we received. It's only going to be on that side deck, nothing in the front. And I know that there have been discussions, and I just want to clarify.
I'm unsure if there is going to be music in the front and on the side. I mean, the owner is present here.
Right.
If council would like to ask some questions, I also defer to the solicitor on that.
Is it appropriate to take testimony, or?
Sure. I mean,
Okay.
Liquor license, consideration of liquor license renewal, new ones, it's an informal process, but yes, we can,
we've done that
council has
previous.
questions and know that they're here, so if they'd like to.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Absolutely. And if you could just turn the microphone on.
And bring that a little closer to you, please. Thank you.
So my name is Shirley Finney, and I wasn't at the last meeting. I didn't realize even that the liquor license was being considered in the lot, but I did see the comments after the fact. I was submitted a series of questions from the city, which I went over with Aaron, and I think we answered all your questions. I'm not really sure, legally what's allowed, what's not. I always say, if I'm told something by somebody from the city, I assume that that's the correct thing. Right now, our intent is not to torment the neighbors, and I said our biggest neighbor is the nuns. We've been dealing with them many years. Sister Kathy sleeps with her window open. She goes to bed at 7 o'clock. She gets up at 4 in the morning, and we talk to her all the time. And all the nuns. Sister Kathleen, she retired and went to the nursing home. She still comes down and stays with us. So we are very aware of the noise and whom that will torment. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times we get accused of being loud when it's not us. It's a party down the street. People call and say, your music's blaring. And I'm like, we don't have any music. And then my husband will walk around and find a house somewhere where the music's playing, and it's not us. That said, our intent is to have the music on the side of the building as close to us as humanly possible. I submitted to the city 100 most recent reviews, which actually go back to last summer, from our guest rooms on Booking.com. That book. And as soon as they leave, they get a questionnaire, how was your stay at Elaine's? And most people love it, they never review. It's the people that were upset about something. In 100 reviews going back to last summer, there was not one, the music was too loud. There was one sound complaint about the room above them, and there was one sound complaint, the fire exit door slamming. It was very loud because it's fire exit door and it's supposed to shut fast and whatever. So we don't really have a noise problem, but we are very aware and we try not to. So the music, we laid out the drawing, is on the side of the deck, very close to our building, right above our rooms. And I offered to walk the property with anybody. If they found a better place, they would like to put it. But we chose that place because we figured it would be the quietest, specifically for the nuns.
Mayor, can I ask?
Please.
A couple? Okay. The only reason is at our last meeting, there were some people that came up and provided testimony that things were going until 10 o'clock. And I think that was a misunderstanding.
It was a misunderstanding.
That's what I received from the clerk.
Yeah. When we want to be a good business in Cape May. We don't want to be a problem. And again, we try to do the best we can. And I've been there. I've been in Cape May 5 years on the Washington Street Mall and 35 years there, and I think I've been a good steward of the property. And it's a lot better than when I took it over. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Two other quick things. So now we're clear that everything is at 9 o'clock because that's
Yes.
what's in here, which is fine.
Yep.
And by the way, the deck that you put out there was very well
Beautiful.
done.
Everybody really enjoys it.
Yeah, it's very well done. And it really matches the building beautifully. But so the music is going to be on that side deck. Because we have received some complaints from neighboring residential areas, is there any way that you could kind of put the music towards, amplified towards Lafayette Street?
It does. Everything goes towards Lafayette
It's going
Street.
towards Lafayette Street, okay.
We actually talked about maybe putting some planters on the back or something.
Just to shield,
sort of
buffer.
And I even thought of, something temporary when you had the music. You just held it. But by moving the music back, it's louder in the back. It is what it is, That's why we try to keep it tucked into the side of our building like that. But we are aware and trying to come up with a plan that'll help.
Mm-hmm.
But our music, I sit out there on the deck, I can hardly hear it. I spend all night, quiet, turn it down. Our music is really considering it's not really loud. I really don't think so.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
The only other, are you planning on still having music in the very front area where the bar?
No, I can't say that a wind-driven rain one day. Our object is to be outside as opposed to inside. Mm-hmm. That's where the people feel safe and that's where they want to be. I won't say I'll give up never having music in the front. I have grandfathered in, which I wrote. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. When we made the arrangements to move from our parking lot, which has always been licensed for alcohol since we bought the building. Mm-hmm. 35 years ago, it's been licensed for alcohol. So we made arrangements to trade that for the front patio. And my goal is to trade that for the back. But if there's a wind-driven rain blowing that way, and we put them on the porch up front, I'm not saying that'll never happen, but 99.9% of the time, our goal is to have it there. And we are grandfathered in with Mayor Mahaney, 2 fundraisers, the Kentucky Derby, it's our second biggest fundraiser that they have, and they only probably have 2. We raised $5,000 for them that day at the Kentucky Derby, and we were grandfathered for another fundraiser for them in the fall. So we always did a spring and a fall. And Mahaney said, if you have something that you want to do, maybe it's a Lusk fundraiser or something like that. He didn't mention Lusk, but another good cause that, ask the city permission and for having it in the parking lot. So, but we don't really intend to operate our business in the parking lot. That's why we put the deck in, to get off the parking lot. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, council? Okay. So we have Resolution 172-06-2023. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions or comments, council? No? Roll call?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Baldwin?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Okay. Council, any old business tonight?
Any old business, council? No? Any new business, city solicitor?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
City manager?
No, we're just getting prepared for our 4th of July celebration, the parade, fireworks, all the good stuff. Our staff's putting it all together for the council to enjoy that day.
It's amazing that we don't have a meeting until after, or do we have a second? Never mind. All right.
No, we meet on the
We got
3rd.
one more.
That was going to be
Okay.
my
City
sign-up.
clerk?
So we are meeting on the 3rd,
Thank
since the holiday is on Tuesday. We're meeting on the 3rd at 3 p.m., and I do believe the mayor has asked to keep the agenda light for that reason.
Thank you.
But that's it, Mayor.
Thank you for that announcement. City Deputy Mayor?
Just a couple of quick things. You gave a nice update on the firehouse. I was in there today. The flooring is going in. They're looking at epoxying the floor on the 2nd floor probably next week. Substantial completion should be done sometime, probably mid to end July, and that's when Councilmember Meyer and I have to get together and plan an opening celebration. So,
That's great.
And then Saturday, I think everybody received their invitation, but also for the public, there's an open house at the headquarters on the boardwalk. Meet all of your lifeguards, your first responders. There'll be activities for the kids. There'll be demonstrations, food. Food brings everybody out, so it'll be a really nice event.
Is there a time on that when it starts?
Yes, 9 to 11.
What day is that again?
Saturday.
Saturday.
That's great.
That's it. Thank you.
Councilman Meyer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is, just the things that keep coming up, the Shade Tree Commission, that, they want to change some things in the ordinance, and I'll be sending you a formal email to the solicitor asking them to basically mirror what we have in West Cape May. You've made that, ordinance over there. So whatever makes it easiest for you to transfer it into our hands, some of the language that we currently have is not the best anyway, so I'm willing to step it up and maybe add some teeth to it, as somebody once told me.
Councilmember McDade?
Yes, I just, I forgot I was supposed to hand these out to you guys before we started the meeting. Sorry about that.
Oh,
The pamphlets came in
Nice
for
job.
the Cape May Free Shuttle. I picked them up from Casey this afternoon. She went to, they got them distributed to all the hotels. They actually are going to place a second order. I spoke with the representative from the company this week, John Walker. They are still working on larger signs for the vehicles. He's hoping to have something in the next couple weeks on that. That way, at least we'll have them for any future years. The signs for the stops will be hopefully in next week. There's currently signs there, but we're trying to get some updated ones. I'll have a report with the numbers at the next meeting, so we'll know what kind of ridership, but John said it's been going very well. And finally, in this past week, we did have some people that they were picking up down at Wilmington, down towards Poverty Beach. So we got some people down there, so things seem to be going pretty well. So I just wanted to give everybody, and then we'll get the numbers. So
That's great.
yeah.
This is really nice and simple, easy to read.
Simple, and I'm actually going to be making some follow-up calls to Doreen from the chamber. Provided me with a list of phone numbers for some of the key contacts for the hotels on Beach Avenue, et cetera. Just to sort of say, if you need the pamphlets, we've got them. Please promote it to your clients. As much as possible so that we can really take advantage of having the service. So
Cute.
yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, Casey did a great job.
Okay.
And I've ridden it a bunch of times already.
Yeah.
And I saw some locals on there too, so that was
good.
Oh, yeah, no, people, and John said that a lot of people who have used it in prior years, who are saying thanks for having it back again. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Councilman Yeager?
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Okay. And I have nothing this evening either, so thank you, and we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone.
It's in reference to ordinance 506. I just want clarification on this. What I see happening is that you had lot size per dwelling was 2,500 square feet, and you're going down to 1,500 square feet. So that's, less than a 40 by 40 lot. And I guess I want to make sure that we're not going to be allowing garage apartments to be put in since we're reducing the lot size. Is there any more clarification on that?
Yeah, the purpose, as I understand it, from the planning board and the planning board engineer of that amendment, which is a recommendation contained in the master plan, is to eliminate an inconsistency in the minimum dwelling requirement, because it says lot size per dwelling unit at 1,500 square feet, and then it has efficiency 1,200, one bedroom 1,600. So the recommendation, those are in apparent conflict, and it's creating confusion for the board, confusion for the applicants, and this is really only dealing with the area of Yacht Avenue, that's the R5. So the recommendation there was to just provide a consistent lot size per dwelling unit for that specific area, and it's not across the town, it's just for that specific area with the unique lot sizes there.
Oh, okay.
It's not going to permit garage apartments just because of that. You're still going to have, principal and accessory use limitations there. And FAR, lot coverage, all that's still going to factor in.
Right, but you went, before it was 2 or more bedrooms, you needed 2,500 square feet. Now you're down to only requiring 1,500 square feet. So that's where I was concerned that you're, for 2-bedroom.
Minimum.
Well, but it's going to be going up. You know what I'm saying? That it's not just ground floor, it would be going up as many floors as they want.
But that's what I mean. You still have FAR and lot coverage kind of factoring into this too. It's not just lot size per dwelling unit. There's other bulk requirements that are still going to factor into a development application. I think
Because on here, it doesn't really say about lot coverage on this part, the table. It's number 18 is what I'm referencing to. It
Right.
doesn't talk about,
Yeah, it may not say it in there. I'm just saying that there's other bulk requirements that are going to factor into a particular development application. This is just, and look, this is a recommendation contained in our master plan as reiterated by the planning board in the form of a recommendation to council. Eliminate an inconsistency in the code. Council's response to this could be make it 2,500 if you wanted to, but this is the recommendation pursuant to the master plan. And that's the background of it. It's based on a perceived inconsistency from the planning board and the applicant side that's creating confusion.
okay.
And this was part of the 2019 master plan, part of the
Correct.
recommendations. I do recall this. There was probably only about 20 of them, and this was one of them.
Yeah, and yeah, you see 1,500 and you think, well, that's kind of small, but you think about the area and it's R5 is not some huge zone. It's limited, yeah.
And then my other number was number 42. It has to talk about setback lines and that they're not including steps. And I guess my concern was if you're not including steps, then these houses are going to be built closer and closer to the road and even to the side. Because the setbacks, from what I understand from reading this, means that even on a side, if you put steps in, you can go closer to that the property line. Whereas before, steps were always included in the setbacks. And here it looks like you're eliminating the steps to be included in setbacks.
You're looking at 42?
42, building setback line.
Yeah, what this adds, first of all, we do have permitted elevation of buildings pursuant to, raising it to base flood elevation. So people can raise structures by right to a certain extent. What this proposed change is doing pursuant to the recommendation under the master plan is, one, allowing projection of roof eaves, so that allowing a give there of 18 inches so that the roof eaves can protrude a bit, recognizing that's probably not going to impact or negatively impact light, air, and open space. And then projections in the front yard setbacks by entry stairs and landings shall be permitted and limited to 5 feet, provided the entry stair and landing is less than 10 feet wide and the principal building is currently conforming. So essentially saying, if the setback is 20 feet to the front of the building, you can have 5 feet of give to provide that stair, and you don't need a variance.
Right. Well, I mean,
If it's 7, you got to go to the board.
Yeah, but I guess doesn't just talk about raising houses. It talks about, I'm concerned with new
This isn't
construction.
talking about raising houses. This is providing a general, I'm just giving you the
Right,
background
yeah.
that people can raise, and there's some give there for stairs, because we recognize in order to get to the raised structure, you need to build
Right,
stairs.
yeah.
This is, whether you have to raise it or not, this is providing a generally applicable standard that would recognize, look, if you build 10 feet or less in width of a staircase to enter a building, you maybe, from a policy standpoint, maybe the city wants to give 5 feet of give on the setback so that it's 15 instead of 20 to the main building, 15 to the stair, and saying, okay, it's just a stair, and it's a limited width, limited length, and you don't have to go to the board for that. But council doesn't have to do that. I mean, well, they voted to do that tonight.
Right, yeah.
That's the background of it.
I mean, my concern would be that you're now having new construction being built that much closer to the street or to the
Stair
side.
can only be 5 feet more than the building. That's what that says.
Right, which is still a lot, because a lot of people, these new builders make it so that the stairs are included in that setback, so you're not going that much further out.
Right.
And then my last has to do with number 32, drainage. And it says that you're not, and I guess I was considered it to be a parking lot, that you don't have to be connected to the city's drainage plan. I was concerning that if this is a parking lot and you're blacktopping it, everything, you're going to be creating flooding issues on the neighbors and everything, whereas if it was connected to the drain, at least the water would be draining off.
Yeah, the comment that I got from the city engineer was that we don't want surface drainage from parking lots just jumping into a stormwater drainage system. There's should be other methods of dispersing water. That's inconsistent with other stormwater management.
Okay, I'm looking at the fact that we have flooding issues, and that now we're going to be flooding the streets. And
Know
that was-
that taking that out, we still have stormwater management requirements for major and now minor development. That was a change that was done recently. So this doesn't wipe out those provisions. It just recognizes that it doesn't need to be here in these design standards, and
Right.
it's provided for elsewhere.
And I know it was very nice that they put that in there so that neighbors don't get flooded by new development. But I didn't know how that affected street flooding. That streets are flooding now because of drainage issues. I'm thinking with this parking lot, where they say don't have to connect, because most homeowner wouldn't be connecting to the drainage system.
Yeah, well, as you know, if there are nuisance flooding conditions, nuisance drainage conditions, that's something that there is some regulation on that now, even if it's not part of a site plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Roush?
Jules Rouse, 1010 New York Avenue. I've raised the question about the desal project and what kind of direction we're taking as far as the size of the expansion, or is it going to be a completely new one? And I've talked to a couple of the former committee members when the original desal plant was put together, and to ask about what that history consisted of. And there was a very active committee that worked very, very hard to put the first desal plant together. And I would like to make that suggestion to this council, that they consider forming a committee and solicit from the residents of the city, those that may have some unusual experience, background, or training that they could bring to the committee, not just somebody to sit in a chair, but someone that would have some real significant benefit, because this is a big project, and it's not going to get done unless it gets started and gets moved forward. So that would be a strong suggestion. My second issue that I would like to raise is John Queenan, who was an employee of the city for many years, and I think he retired in 2015. He was the gentleman that was required, as part of his job description, to go every June or July and do a count of all the restaurants and the bars and do a seat count. He was kind of the guy that kept everybody in line. We have not had a seat count since 2016. It's time that we do have a seat count. But in 2016, there was a parking committee that I had the pleasure of serving on, and there had been a random number of, as I recall, 12 restaurant bars where they went and did a seating count, and it was estimated that we had over 1,000 seats that were not really accounted for in our site plan approvals. I think it is time that we take a serious look at what do we have in the way of seats serving the general public. And in line with that, we have an area along Jackson Street at Delaney's where there's a series of tables and chairs on the sidewalk running parallel next to their building that has been rejected in the past. And I frankly have no idea as to how they got approval to open up this year with tables and chairs. My understanding that this goes back, frankly, the history of it goes back to when the Washington Street Mall was created, and they provided for an area for the restaurants to have a private seating area. And at that time, it was said that none of the side streets could take advantage of it. There was one exception to that, and that was at the Ugly Mug, where they got a very small area because of the configuration of their building. But at that time, there was no other area, particularly in this case, Jackson Street, where the side street was enabled to be used as an area for seating and beverage consumption. So I asked the question, is there a permit issued for that area this year? And I don't know whether our clerk knows that, or...
Does council wish me to?
If you don't,
Off the top of my head, I do believe they have a patio permit. I would have to double check because I haven't looked at it recently, but I do believe that they've received approval for those seats.
I'd also like to have it verified historically as to how that came about, because during the administration of Mr. Enderweiss, there was a request at that time to use that area for outside seating, beverage, and food consumption, and was rejected. And then I have just an overall question to the solicitor. As I understand, at this time, the bars and restaurants can serve a beverage, an alcoholic beverage, in a closed container that can be taken out. However, it cannot be taken out and then the top taken off of the container and have that consumption out in the general public. Is that a correct description of the law, or would you,
Yes, put simply, we don't allow open container in the city of Cape May.
that's my understanding. Now, that open container would mean that it can't be consumed on what I'll call generally public property.
If it's being consumed, it means it's opened. So we
But-
can't, we don't permit open container in the city of Cape May in public areas, other
And-
than those designated by council, maybe on a temporary basis, or licensed premises.
So basically, sidewalks and streets are not permitted.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roush. Just as an update, we do expect the CME and Mr. Zampino to be here at the next meeting. I'm hoping at the next meeting, if not the next meeting, the meeting after. Just because it's July 3rd, they may have a conflict. But if it's not this meeting, the next, to give us an update on the water department, just so everyone knows that. Mr. Vole, you've heard of requests for seed counting. The city's, of course, done that many times in the past. Do we expect to be doing that this season?
Sure.
Okay.
Captain's here, he can pass it on to code enforcement, who he oversees, and we'll have them do a seat count.
Okay.
Make sure we're in compliance. Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Okay, the time is now 5:25. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.